Welcome to the Manifesting Doll podcast. I'm Barbara Orban from No Diet Babe. I'm a spiritual mindset coach and weight loss expert. If you are a spiritual babe wanting to up-level your life around your body, health, wellness, spirituality, law of attraction and manifestation, then this is the podcast for you. I'm here to give you the tools, teachings, and strategies to manifest the body and life of your dreams. As spiritual babes, we know to focus on love as opposed to fear. So get ready to learn how to implement spiritual teachings to weight loss, wellness, and your daily life, coming from a place of love and abundance. This is a celebration of how we can shift our inner perception of ourselves and watch our outer selves shift. You can become the best version of yourself, and I'm here to help. So let's get started. Hey babes, welcome to the Manifesting Doll podcast. I'm Barbara Orban from NoDietBabe.com, and welcome to today's episode, you guys. There's been like a bit of a quiet period, like I was saying last episode, but here I am and I'm back again, and I want to talk to you guys about weight loss information and all the different diets out there and help you shine some light on what you can do, what works, and to kind of just gain a bit of information on overwhelm and confusion. Because I've been where you're at, okay? I spent a great deal of time in my early to mid 20s sifting through a ton of weight loss content, programs, hiring coaches, endless personal trainers, like all of this, and sifting through so much information and so many different opinions. And I just want to help you out and give you a little bit of my perspective on things, and hopefully it can help you out with your weight loss. Just a reminder that I currently have a opening with one-on-one coaching, and it's a special on 2 weeks Voxer, which Voxer is like the walkie-talkie coaching app, which is amazing. I have loads of private clients that I talk to via Voxer, and it's a back and forth walkie-talkie app where I can talk to them multiple times per day or each day if they need help around emotional eating, with weight loss strategy, and also law of attraction and manifestation around weight loss. And also 2 private coaching calls with me. So if you want to go check that out, nodietbabe.com/2 weeks coaching, but the link is also in my Instagram bio and also in the show notes, so go check it out. So basically today, let's talk about the overwhelm that gets created with weight loss information. So if you're anything like me, you've spent a lot of time learning all the bits and pieces about how weight loss works, all the different advice out there. So I was one of those people who would get obsessed with dieting information and be like, let me figure out all the bits and pieces. But let me just tell you from a mindset perspective, and I notice this happens in business surprisingly as well. People get caught up with the strategy, and then they create so much perfectionism around how much action we need to be taking, how much we need to be doing per se, but also how perfect certain things need to be in order to get a result. And then we create these rules and we create these ways. We basically decide our reality and how things have to be for us. And I noticed that in life and in creating my reality around any aspect, if I place a lot of rules around how things need to look and how things need to be perfect, I can create extra unnecessary work, okay? And with getting overwhelmed with weight loss information, I used to get caught up in the micro things, okay? The micro things that didn't matter. Things like little things like being so perfect around things like not having any sugar or not having foods that weren't clean, or having perfect meal timing, or being all like, I have to exercise X times per week or it won't work. I have to make sure I have a post-meal shake. I have to make sure I have X amount of protein. All of these things, even though practical advice like this can be used and implemented in a way to help you lose weight. I'm not saying that there isn't information out there that's beneficial. I'm saying that when you have information overload and it causes you to become overwhelmed and have anxiety, you might find that it's harder to stick to strategy. Okay. And so the key to not getting burnt out. Okay. Because whether or not you lose weight comes down to one thing: whether or not you stick it out long enough. Weight loss takes time, and there's ups and downs. And whether or not you actually go forth and lose the pounds, like me losing 30 pounds, was because I was able to do it for long enough. I was able to pick something that was sustainable. I picked a strategy which was counting calories at one point, not at all points, but it taught me enough about how to put myself in a calorie deficit, but I also didn't put myself in too much of a calorie deficit, which I've talked about in different episodes, so that's another episode. But basically, yeah, like I was able to do it in a way that I found sustainable. And I made myself I made myself work with myself. What I'm trying to say is, like, I didn't create this thing of like weight loss has to look like this and I have to squeeze into this box. I kind of went with the flow and was like, okay, so if I'm feeling deprived here, what do I need to do? I was constantly reassessing the situation, and that allowed me to keep it sustainable and stick to the strategy, okay? So what can happen though when you get overwhelmed and there's all these rules and you like turn your whole life upside down? If you like, I'm currently doing this, and then you sign up for a meal plan or you sign up for a weight loss strategy and they're like, okay, here's your grocery list. Here's all the things you need to cook. And you're having to cook whole new meals. You're having to cook things that perhaps you've never cooked before. You're having to eat ingredients that you're not used to having, and you're cooking for a family and this and that. You're going to get overwhelmed. And when you're that overwhelmed, it's going to be easy to want to give up. And then if you give up and you don't stick to the strategy, or you have all or nothing thinking, and then suddenly you go from being really strict to letting really loose, you're going to have trouble with your weight. So the key here is to just look at it differently. You have to look at it differently. You have to understand that all those plans out there work because they put you in a calorie deficit, okay? When you go on keto, it's not some magical thing that happens that like you can't create. Like, you don't have to go into ketosis to lose weight. And a lot of people like keto, and I've got nothing against it, but mainly what it's doing is it's putting you in a calorie deficit because you have less options. And when you have less options, you can't eat as many carbs. You've got less choices. You're filling up your plate with lots of vegetables a lot of the time. And the fat, because you're like in your head, you're like, cool, I get to eat loads of fat. It creates this thing in your mind like, oh, I get to eat this. And it switches you into this abundant place around food, right? And because you don't have as many options, you're not putting as many calories on your plate. At the end of the day, weight loss is about a calorie deficit. Same with being like becoming vegetarian and being like cutting out meat made me lose weight. It's like, yeah, because when you take meat off your plate, you suddenly like you're taking a whole bunch of calories off your plate because you have less options. If I have lots of options, I'm kind of like more likely to overeat. It's so true. Like for me, as well as when I've talked to clients, when they go to parties and there's lots of food available, you pile the food up because there's so many options. When there's more options, you're likely to want to eat more, right? So that's why when you cut out certain things, you kind of say, I can't eat this. It might help you be in a calorie deficit because you don't have as many options. Does that make sense? So at the end of the day, don't get overwhelmed with having to find the thing that works for you, meaning having to fit into a box. I always used to be like, I have to label. I'd be like, oh, I'm doing paleo. Oh, I'm doing keto. Oh, I'm doing this. Like, you don't have to label something and then stick to it. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to lose weight by going sugar-free. Oh, I'm going to lose weight by becoming vegetarian. Oh, like, you can do that. Like, you can do that. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, for me, it made me feel really restricted when I set these rules of oh my God, like I can't have anything that doesn't align with this diet because otherwise I won't lose weight. Whereas in reality, if I wanted to have an ice cream, even though I'm on paleo, like I'm not going to suddenly like not succeed at the diet because I had something that was off the diet. You know what I mean? It's that crazy dieting mentality where it's like, oh, if I have something that's not on the diet, like I'm not going to succeed at the diet. And it's like, no, because as long as you're in a calorie deficit overall and you can sustain that over time, like I mean weeks and months, not a few days, you guys. We're talking fat loss, real fat loss, not just water and glycogen weight, is going to take you time. It's going to take you weeks and months to lose it. And if you're losing massive amounts of weight really, really quickly, that's not going to be just fat. It's going to probably be muscle as well if you're like not doing it in a healthy way. And it's going to be water and glycogen. And so, yeah, like don't get carried away with that kind of thing, that kind of quick fix weight loss, because I'm talking about real sustainable long-term fat loss, okay? And like that, when you do it that way, it's like a calorie deficit. That's all it is. Like that's all it is. If you want to really make it simple, which is what I had to do because I was one of those people who got really overwhelmed. I got really overwhelmed with tons of information. I had learned a lot of stuff, and then suddenly I had all of these rules that I had to abide by. And one of the things that helped me finally lose weight was just to keep it super simple and just to work with where I was already at and make small incremental changes. Actually, it's one of the things that I taught in my live course Emerge today was the practical aspect of overcoming emotional eating and how you don't want to get overwhelmed and jump into having to cut out all the times that you're emotionally eating. The other thing that's amazing that I just wanted to tell you guys is how much the girls are loving the course Emerge. Like I literally like wanted to burst into tears today, like of joy and happiness and just super emotional because of a couple of the girls just commenting how, you know, one of the girls is like a long time podcast listener and she said, you know, I listened to all of your podcasts. I couldn't imagine like getting more information. She said, she was like, I'm beyond impressed with the content. And yeah, absolutely loving the course. She said it's absolute gold. She didn't realize how much extra value she could get out of the course, but it exceeds all of her expectations. And she's so impressed with all the finer details and how I've broken everything down in Emerge. And then one of the other girls agreed with her. So I'm super happy because I do believe, you know, that I do give a lot of information out in my courses, in my coaching that I have built up loads of information and practical stuff that I've learned through my clients and through myself, that I provide all this information to you guys to help you overcome emotional eating. And not only that, but she said this information has not only helped her with her emotional eating, but in her relationships as well. And that's what I notice with people that I coach as well, is that this law of attraction perspective changes you in every aspect of your life. So your whole life begins to improve, because the whole reason why people gain weight is to avoid discomfort in their life. That's kind of what I've seen. Our appetite increases when, like, why would we start to choose foods that cause us to, like, choose foods in a way and overeat in a way that make us gain weight, is what I'm trying to say, right? When we're born with the innate ability to manage our weight. And I believe that when we're in alignment, we can manage our weight, and our appetite we start to overeat and overindulge when we're avoiding discomfort and other things. And so I teach all about that in Emerge. And really deep, like, weight loss manifestation stuff. And also in my 2 weeks Voxer and calls and that, we cover all that as well. But anyway, you guys, like, what I wanted to say was, when you're getting overwhelmed with weight loss information, it can create all this extra work. And when you have all this extra work, this perceived stuff that you need to do, it makes weight loss seem hard. And when you're overwhelmed and something feels hard, you're less likely to want to do it. You're going to put it in the too hard basket, and then it's always going to be this thing that you want to do. That's why you tend to say to yourself, I want to lose weight, but I just can't get motivated, right? And you've got to think that motivation happens when you move the crap out of the way, okay? Because motivation is who you are naturally. Like, coming back to, like, more Abraham Hicks stuff, like, it's who you are. Like, motivation and doing the things that you want to do in alignment with who you want to be and what you want to have, like, and what you want to do is alignment. It's that whenever it's not like joy and happiness is the natural thing. Like, do you know, I went to my parents' house the other day, and mum had planted, I forget what it was, in like a cup or something, and the seed started to sprout, or the seed started to grow in conditions where you wouldn't think something would grow, right? And it's like, things want to live. Like, we live in a universe where things want to live. Like, everything is trying to grow. Like, my grass doesn't freaking stop growing. Like, the trees don't stop sprouting leaves. Like, if something's not working, it's because you're blocking the natural flow of life. Like, things want to naturally grow. Things want to work out. You know, like a plant that grows, or grass that grows, like, it's just naturally working out. And anything that doesn't is blocking that flow. So your motivation, or your ability to be at your desired weight, is a natural thing. And anything that's like you not having that is blocking that flow of the natural thing. So your motivation and your desire to move and eat healthy is the natural thing. If you're not doing that, it's more something that's blocking rather than you needing to get motivated. You know what I mean? So you want to figure out where your perception of what you need to do is hard. Yeah, because that, when you perceive it as hard, or there's so many rules, or it's so far away from you and where you are now, that's when you'll get overwhelmed and you'll give up. I hope that makes sense, because it's about bringing it closer to you and taking small incremental steps so that it's sustainable and creates this perception of being easy. Because when you can shift and become a person who's taking steps, and bit by bit you increase your confidence around being able to stick to something or make changes in life, when you change them incrementally, you move forward rather than going, like, I want to manifest this huge thing. and then you can't manifest that huge thing because you can't make it believable and get your energy behind it, and then you give up altogether. Oh, manifestation is too hard. I can't do it. Like, so if I'm like, I want to manifest $1 million by next month, and I set this huge goal that's not believable to me, I can't get my energy behind it, and then I go, oh, manifestation doesn't work. Rather than starting where I am and incrementally changing so that I can get my energy behind it each time. It's like that with changing food, the way you eat, and getting to a point where you can lose weight sustainably. You do it incrementally. You have to be able to pick a spot that you can, pick stuff that's doable, and don't get over excited and be like, oh, I'm going to lose as much weight as I can really, really quickly. Because notice how when you've done that in the past, it hasn't worked. Just get more reflective and kind of like observe your patterns and go, right, well, that doesn't make sense to do it that way again. So where am I currently at? How can I make incremental changes? Because let's just talk about calories for a moment again. Like, if you're currently consuming 3,000 calories per day, and then you start following a weight loss strategy that's 1,500 calories, that's a big freaking jump. To put yourself in a calorie deficit, you need the maximum is 500 or 600 calories per day. You know what I mean? And that's not that hard. And you could just start by shaving off 100 to 200 calories just by making small swaps. You don't have to turn your whole life upside down to create a deficit to lose weight. You really don't. You can just rearrange a few things and voila, you're in a deficit. And yes, you're going to need to learn that information and learn more about that. But I honestly feel like it's worth it. I honestly feel like it's kind of like managing your money. It's you want to get to a point where you can look at the data and the numbers of how much you're spending, how much you put aside for savings, etc., without feeling scarcity. It's the same thing. You want to be able to look at the data of what you're eating without feeling bad. And that's about practicing yourself into that. Oh my God, I can't even speak. It's I don't do it. I skip a few podcasts and then I forget how to talk. So yeah, you just need to practice yourself into not feeling deprived and feeling like weight loss is hard. Which is what I teach in my courses and in my coaching, right? But yeah, basically what I want you to do is see that you don't have to feel overwhelmed, okay? And you don't have to feel like you have to follow something 100% in order to make it work. If you want to be realistic, you don't want to turn your life upside down, you want something that's sustainable, look at what you currently do. Look at what you feel like is easy to do and create a plan around that. Create a plan around who you are and what you feel is easy, because otherwise you continue to reinforce the belief that weight loss is hard, okay? So start small, make small changes, make changes that are doable and believable, so that you can manifest more confidence around your ability to do the things that you tell yourself to do, okay? So yeah, anyway, you guys, I hope that was helpful for today's episode. Just know that you don't need to get overwhelmed with the information out there. Don't allow yourself to fall into that frustration or feeling lost. I know how that feels, and I've been there before. And I remember having that perspective of weight loss like it was this far out thing that I just couldn't ever figure out. And it was so confusing. And I really want to try and shine light on it. It's really easy. It's not that hard. You got to create a calorie deficit. A lot of people just do it too extreme. Yeah, and that's why calories gets a bad rap as well, because it induces feelings of deprivation. And you don't want to induce feelings of deprivation. You want to feel abundant around food, right? Because otherwise it screws with your feelings of satisfaction around food and yeah, it makes you feel deprived basically when you have that perception. Feeling deprived is not nice. It's hard to sustain something when you feel deprived, which is why I don't believe in cutting out foods you love. I would never ever cut out foods I love. I used to do that all the time and then I'd binge on them. I used to feel guilty about the foods I love, and now I accept that I love those foods and they are less alluring now because I don't have that screwed up relationship with food. And it's as simple as creating a calorie deficit. You don't have to turn your life upside down. You don't have to make huge changes. Work with who you are and what works for you. Take small steps in the right direction. You will get there eventually. Okay, so remember, there is 2 weeks Voxer coaching and 2 sessions. We can go so much deeper. I'm currently coaching my coach that I've talked about a lot, Genevieve, and she's loving the coaching. So you can grab a spot while it's still available. Only going to be available for the next few days, so go check it out. Like I said, the link is in the bio, in the show notes, in the bio on Instagram at NoDietBabe, and also you can go check it out, nodietbabe.com/2 then weeks coaching, 2 weeks coaching. All right, love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you loved this episode, I'd love for you to leave me an iTunes review. Don't forget to follow this podcast for more uplifting teachings to come. For more tips, inspiration, and teachings, come follow me on Instagram at NoDietBabe, or check out my website, nodietbabe.com. Until I see you next time, babes, lots of love.
da 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 da